You ready to do this, Steve?
Let's do it, Spence. Punch it, Chewie!
Welcome to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot, as always, is Steve Madura.
Good evening.
We're two best friends that, despite being fathers and husbands, we just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode number 19, 19.
19. That's 19 for you.
You know, Steve, every time now I have to say, which episode this is, I'm thinking of Sean Capri, right?
I know.
I mean, I
am as well.
I always said it last week, and I'm like, I don't want to sound like I'm trying to be too happy about this, but I don't want to sound like I'm sad and angry about it either.
Well, right now I feel like I was like 19, and then just like let it lie when you say that.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm trigger shy. I'm gun shy now.
Right. So I have a new phobia. Thank you, Sean Capri.
Just chalk it up to Sean Capri.
No, man, I'm glad to be back. We've had two great weeks the last 2 weeks. I mean, we had Sean Capri on the podcast, and that's a lot of fun. I mean, best friends forever with that guy. I mean, just an absolute fantastic guy. His wife Chelsea's going to be having their baby probably any day now, maybe by the time this podcast even comes out. And then, of course,
we'll dedicate this to the unborn child, James Tiberius.
Yes. Oh, Steve, you know my inner desire. James Tiberius Stapleton. Yeah. So, and then of course, last week we had Peter Christensen join us and Brita, as always, and that was a lot of fun too. But I got to tell you, with all that fun that's going on, it feels good just to be back to the dynamic duo. You know what I'm saying?
Man, I'm telling you, Batman and Robin, Boy Wonder, and yeah.
I call Batman. I call Batman.
I call Ursula Kitt.
That's creepy because I got some childhood fantasies about Ursula Kitt or Eartha Kitt, excuse me.
Eartha Kitt.
Yeah. It's kind of like me.
She's half sea witch, half Catwoman.
Right.
Weird.
Sing to me.
That's Phantom of the Opera.
Keep singing.
Man, so I gotta ask. Let me start off the podcast by saying it is good to be back. We're back from spring break, back in the saddle, back in action, and it's funny because I have this pounding headache, and it's one of those headaches where it's like it's like behind your eyes, and it like pulses with every heartbeat. It's the kind of headache that like affects your will to live.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of what I'm like going through right now. So I've had like 12 glasses of water before the podcast. So I may have to use like
Did you use any Nuprin? They're little yellow.
Yellow.
Different. Whatever happened to those, man?
Right, exactly. How does a medicine just kind of go out of style? Oh, those are so 90s.
Why, really?
I don't know. Yes, no, I actually did take a Tylenol, but we only had one. And I don't know, whoever takes like one Tylenol, it's like I open the thing, I pour the bottle out, just one falls in my mouth. I'm like,
children.
One?
Children take one.
Not a 38-year-old man. I'm like, oh, just take that Flintstone and just break it in half because I'm just half a Fred is all I can handle.
Wow. So, are you gonna make it?
I think I am. I don't think it's a migraine. In fact, I don't think I've ever had a migraine. Because if you ever talk to somebody and be like, man, I got a bad headache, they're like, oh, well, it's not a migraine. They're like migraine like snobs.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like some kind of like elite like members only club where it's like, oh no, sweetheart, you would know if you had a migraine. I'm like, well, it hurts pretty bad. Like, no.
So you're saying that you're not a migraine hipster where you're like, well, I was into migraines before you even found out about headaches.
Right. I just need darkness. Darkness. So I don't know. I'm not. I guess I'm not of the exclusive club. I don't have a fan. A decoder ring, a migraine sweatshirt. It's just a bad headache. I don't know.
Well, besides your not migraine, how are you doing?
Freaking awesome. Yeah. That's about it. No, man. I am anytime I can be be on the pod, doing the cast with the BFF. Life is good, man. Any day that I wake up not 6 feet under, it's a good day.
Amen to that.
Migraine or not.
Amen to that. I hear you. My week, wow, let me tell you, has been interesting. But let me ask you this, though, because this kind of ties into my week. Do you ever, at a time, look at your children and just think, I am making horrible choices in fathering? Just horrible choices. So,
oh my gosh.
I had that moment tonight. Every night our kind of bedtime ritual with the boys is we take them upstairs, we get them in pajamas and brush teeth, and we get ready for bed. And we're doing like these like little word games and letter games for Jackson, who's going to be turning 3 here in a couple weeks. But Charlie loves to play him too, so we do that, and that's fine. But then we lay him down and we let him watch a movie, and typically it's a Disney movie. We've been watching The Lion King the last few days because they keep wanting to watch The Lion King. And you got to remember that Charlie is 4, Jackson's about ready to turn 3, and the whole scene with Mufasa being betrayed by Scar and thrown into the chasm as the wildebeest are stamping through, going on a stampede. And Charlie the whole time is like, run, Simba, run. Run, Simba, run. And I'm going, oh no. He's starting to sound a little panicky while he's saying this. He's like, no, Simba, run. Run, it's dangerous, run. I'm like, oh, great. And then, Mufasa by the way, spoilers if you haven't seen The Lion King.
If you've been under a rock for the past 25 years.
So he hits the ground and he gets taken off by the wildebeest. And then Simba's looking and he goes, no, where's your daddy? He's lost. Oh no. He's dead.
Oh my gosh.
Simba's dad is dead. Simba's dad is dead. And he starts like chanting. Now he's really tired, but he's chanting, Simba's dad is dead. Simba's dead. And then Jackson, my, almost 3-year-old goes, yeah, Simba dad dead. Simba dad dead. I'm like, what is going on here?
And they turn to you and they're like, is Uncle Josh going to kill you? He's already tried and failed, children.
It was just one of those moments I'm like, I'm going to have to teach my kids about death because the dang Lion King is like driving this thing home. I love The Lion King. The Lion King is one of my absolute favorite Disney movies, but I realized this may be a little heavy of a moment. Like, maybe we need to find a way to skip past that. Anyway, I just had one of those moments where I looked at my kids and thought, I'm a horrible father because I'm introducing death to them at the age of 3 and 4.
Well, and especially at bedtime. They're like, hi, kids. Right. Close the door, and they're like...
Brita said to me, she said, we should let the kids watch a little bit longer just to get to Hakuna Matata. That way they go to bed happy. Hey, kids, no worries that Simba's dad died. No worries, let's go to bed.
Somebody dies in your life, just sing a little song and everything will be all right.
Yeah, so anyway, I'm a horrible father tonight. The rest of my week, though, has been really good. My boss was out of town all last week, so I was kind of manning the fort, and we got the new guy, and so I'm trying to help him, and so stressful and busy, but it was fine. But then this weekend happened, and I ended up waking up Saturday night, I guess actually Sunday morning, like around 2 a.m. with horrendous acid reflux, and it kept me up the rest of the night, and I was vomiting and just it was bad, and like it was so bad like it burned my throat, and I haven't had it that bad in quite a long time. And so I mentioned that on Facebook. Someone had said, I haven't heard from you a little bit on Facebook, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll put this on Facebook. I don't know why anyone would be interested, but sure, why not? And Steve, your dear sweet mother was the first person to comment. Who is a nurse, yes. First person to comment, and she was like, are you okay? You should take a PPI, which is a proton pump inhibitor. And she's like, it's either called this Cordrazone Calamezo something or another.
Wait.
Or Prilosec OTC.
Does Scotty have enough power in the flex capacitor to like I need a proton pack and I don't have enough power?
That's kind of what it sounds like. Actually, I'd gone and seen a doctor probably a good 6-8 months ago, and I actually had...
Is his name Bones?
No. Although that would have been awesome. Dr. McCoy? What? If I had a Dr. McCoy around here, that would be my doctor. I'd go to him every weekly. Yeah. I'm like, you're a doctor, right? You're not a bricklayer? But anyway, your mom, I'd seen a doctor anyway. I'd seen a doctor and I actually had the medication. And then like a whole bunch of other people like started giving me like home remedies and things to try. And it just kind of spiraled. And it's kind of one of those things where you start a conversation on Facebook and then you like never respond because it just kind of like grows like a wild bush. And you're like, I don't know where to begin. I'll just let it go.
What's so funny though is like if that conversation actually happened in real life, let's say at a party, and you're like, "Hey, I've been having some," and then everybody starts chiming in. You just kind of back away from the circle and then go to the punch bowl, and everybody just keeps talking. Like, I'm gonna go home now.
That's kind of how it felt. But I took your mom's advice and I took the medication that I had, and I've got to take it like a little before I eat, and it kind of helps quench my stomach acid or whatever. Anyway, really been helping out. And then of course I got the intestinal bug that the boys had a few days earlier on that Sunday. So I pretty much locked myself upstairs with a burning throat and a burning rear. And I started what I call Operation Big Block of Cheese. And pretty much all I ate was like toast. And then I had like a cheese quesadilla. And then I had a grilled cheese sandwich for dinner. I figured... And I took some just cheese up with me, and I was like, if I back myself up with cheese, I'm like, that'll stop the other problem. I'm not a doctor, guys. That's all I'm saying. I am not a doctor. Do not come to me, because if you've got the runs, I'm just going to tell you to eat a big block of cheese.
Oh my god.
Because it works.
64 slices of American cheese. That's my prescription. Wow, Dr. Oz.
I'm just telling you, it was a interesting, weird weekend.
It's funny because my mom, as a registered nurse, you would think like a nurse would, and she's obviously a very good nurse. She's been a nurse for many a year, but as a youth, like I stayed home probably more than. I mean, I like had the truancy office over for like dinner, man. There were times where they like threatened to be like, "We're going to hold back your diploma because you haven't been to school in a month," And then be like, some days I'm like, "Mom, I'm not feeling." She's like, "Okay, stay home." I'm like, "Wow, that was remarkably easy." And I almost felt like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where I'm like, if you're, bent over, moaning and you lick your palms. It's a little childish and stupid, but then again, so is that, So she was fairly, agreeable to me staying home often.
I never had it that easy my entire childhood because my mother was not a nurse and overly protective. But what I did have was my second semester of my senior year of high school. I had like 2 classes that I needed to take in order to graduate. And I had all the stuff that I needed for college and whatnot. And it was a gym class required by the state of Illinois for full years of gym. And then it was like an economics class. And they were both like in the afternoon. So I had like, my schedule was something like study hall, study hall, study hall, choir, lunch, gym, economics, and then like a homeroom or something and whatever. And it was, for a while I would go in and I would take in the paper and a Dr. Pepper and some mini chocolate donuts. And I would just sit there and I would read through the Chicago Sun-Times, read the sports section, read the news, read politics. And then I got real bored with that after a few weeks. And I said, "Mom, this is ridiculous. I'm only going for 2 classes. And she's like, "I am not going to let you just stay home." She's like, "If you're feeling sick, then you can stay home. And if you get feeling better later in the day, then you can go to school." I don't know if my mom was like trying to tell me a message, but you know me. I'm going to try to take advantage of that. So I'd wake up in the morning. I'd say,
"That's right.
Yeah, Mom, my stomach kind of hurts." And she's like, "Okay, I'll call in." Yeah, I was hungry. And then, by like afternoon, I'd have some lunch. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm feeling better. I'll go in for my 2 classes."
Oddly enough, it's gone away.
Yeah, I'd go in and I'd go,
awesome.
Kick a ball around or, shoot some hoops. And then I go to economics class. I'm like, well, I'm done for the day. It was
that's
good times, man.
Yeah, that's how we're keeping up with the Chinese, man.
That's right.
Gym class and study hall. Booyah!
You'll never catch me.
Man.
Anyway,
That's awesome. Sorry you were feeling bad. I'm glad you're feeling better. Obviously, the cheese antidote.
It works, man. It works.
Is, I will definitely try that next time I have
intestinal issues
or otherwise. Yes.
Yes.
My week was good as well. Like I said, it was. You talk about those times when you feel like, gosh, I am doing wrong by my kids, and they are going to need lots of time on the couch,
right,
with a therapist. And there was a time or two this weekend when I was like, what the heck? Like I got upset at my daughter for not doing what she should and whatnot, and I'm like, you made me lose my temper. Why did you push? Like that. And I'm thinking like all the time I'm trying to teach her like you're in charge of your feelings. No one else can make you feel this
right.
way. And then I'm like, don't make me angry. Like Incredible Hulk, green skin. So that was a bad. But on a positive note, we had our biannual church kind of worldwide conference this weekend. It was awesome. It was a great spiritual recharge. And on Sunday, this is something that my sons and I have done for probably the past 3 years. I work with several Jewish fellows, and one in particular, my boss, his name is Joel Schneider. He's a great guy, and he is the president of this organization called Mechot Shittim. I'm probably slaughtering that for those that speak Hebrew that are listening, but basically it was the practice of old when rich landowners would basically not harvest the corners of their fields, and they would allow for the less fortunate to come and to pick the food, the crops, to harvest the food, whatever, so that they could feed themselves. And so this organization basically buys food for those of the Jewish faith so that they can, with dignity, participate in the high holidays, Passover, that's Rosh Hashanah. And so this organization that my boss is president of, they basically like in 2 days package all this food. There's like kosher chicken and kosher wine, all this stuff. And then they need drivers to bring it all over the Chicagoland area. And my kids aren't old enough yet to work in the warehouse. I've done it before, but
so you let them drive naturally.
So I let them drive, exactly. and we make deliveries. So we actually, we go and we deliver these boxes, and we get, a bunch of like cards with people's names on it. It's all over the Chicagoland area. And we got eight cards this time. We did it on Sunday. And we went around, and each one of these houses you go to, a lot of the times you'll go, and this is a Jewish person that's really old, doesn't speak much English. I mean, some of these people were, involved with, had family in the Holocaust, things like that. And so they'll come in, oh, thank you, And there have been a few times where these beautiful elderly people will like, stroke my son's cheek and just be like, thank you so much. And then they'll give them, the tradition is they'll give them candy. So they'll give them like chocolate wafers or things like that, or just different. Sometimes they'll give money, and we try not to accept that, but sometimes they do. And so we get into the car, and my son Addison, after this woman, this probably 95-year-old woman, was like, "Thank you so much," and gave him a hug. He gets to the car and he just goes, "I love her," and just had like this awesome feeling in his heart. And it was just a really cool thing to. During this, it was kind of a juxtaposition, because during this conference that we're watching, we actually were watching on my phone while we were driving doing these deliveries. I'm like, you know what? We're not just listening, sitting in a pew somewhere, listening to people talk about faith and about God. We're actually out there doing it. And it was just a cool experience that we've done, and I hope to do it many years to come. And,
wow.
I felt...
I really want to participate in Jewish Halloween. Is there a way that I can get part of that action where I get candy here?
You got to bring food, and then you get the candy.
Yeah, I can make that happen. We're good. Can I give away stuff I don't like to eat?
As long as it's kosher.
Nice.
You got to have a rabbi bless.
I mean, I'm making a joke and making fun, but that's really awesome, Steve. I think that's really commendable that you're not only doing something that benefits others, but that you're doing it with your boys, and like you're using it as a teaching moment to teach about, being more Christ-like as you serve Jews. I'm trying not to make a joke here, but I'm dead serious. I think that's
awesome. They are the chosen ones, Yeah, so it was a good week. It was a good week, and then it was a good entree into the weekend. So, but I also showed them the Mufasa death scene before they went to bed tonight. So it's kind of a wash.
Yeah. You balance out the scales there. Well, good, Steve. Glad to be back and glad to be doing it again. So let's move on. What do you say?
Oh wait, no, I can't.
Ooh, wait, no. there's a development.
I need some cheese. No,
Wait
I'm
a
kidding.
minute.
No.
Breaking story. Steve has something else.
Yes, I totally forgot. Your brother was in town this past week, and he and I went out to dinner with my mom and his wife to Eduardo's in DeKalb and got some chimichangas.
You know, he sent me that picture, and he said, "Do you recognize where I'm at?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "It's Eduardo's." I'm like, "Dude, I haven't eaten there in 25 years."
Oh, it was so awesome to see them. He actually, he said, "Oh yeah, Spencer just called me. Let me just send him this picture." But it was awesome. We hung out, we ate, and then after our meal, we probably sat there for another 2 hours just laughing and talking. And we actually talked about some stories about your father that made us laugh out loud. So we talked about a certain evening when you and I had rented some movies.
Ooh.
And had some girls over at our house, and he went to go rent his National Geographic, and that was at the time when you could only have 5 movies out at a time. And Mr. Stapleton, you already have your limit. And he's like, I haven't rented any movies. No, you have Sirens and Demolition Man. He's like, what? When were they rented? About an hour ago.
Yep.
And then he made us take them back.
Yes, he did. He wasn't too happy with us. He loves that.
I don't recall.
Listen, that man loved his National Geographic, and nothing comes between him and his National Geographic.
Not Wesley Snipes, and surely not Sylvester Stallone.
Yes.
Anyway, it was just awesome. It was awesome to see your brother. So
I saw
love
that.
to death.
I saw that picture, and I was just so jealous because, I mean, obviously, I saw you back in October, and I see you on the podcast every week, and we talk, and I would love to be there, but also seeing you hanging out with your mom, and I was just trying to think when's the last time I spent some time with Nancy, and it's been a little while. I mean, it really has, and so I looked at that, I was like, oh, Josh is so lucky right now. If I could have been any other place than with my wife and kids at that moment, that's where I would have wanted to have been.
Well, we missed you, man. It's always. Man, you're a brother to me, and as is Josh, and so it's always awesome to be together with family. And I gotta say as well, you don't get enough time to spend with. A lot of times life gets busy, and I live an hour and a half away from my mom. I don't get to spend a lot of time with her, and so, or my dad, and he only lives an hour away. But the chances that you have to just spend a little time here and there is just priceless, especially as you get older.
Well, when I come out in October for my high school reunion, since I'm gonna be in Sycamore for that, I definitely want to try to block out some time and go see your mom while I'm there. So
hit Eduardo's up, man. They got some great chimichangas.
And of course, I say I want to, but I'm probably gonna be staying with you, and you're gonna have to drive me around everywhere. So we are gonna go spend time with your mom. And please tell me that's not gonna be yeah. Please tell me that's not gonna be the next time you see your mom. Please tell me you'll see her in between. She is listening, by the way.
We'll see her before then. So anyway, now we can get into your favorite part of the show and mine, a little Rebel Intelligence.
Let's do it. It's time for some Rebel Intelligence. I always have to let you know, Steve, that many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, Steve, Rebel Intelligence. Man, we had something happen last week where we talked with Peter and Brita about the Spider-Man Homecoming picture that was released, the movie poster.
Right.
And then, of course, the day after we recorded, what happens? The trailer releases.
Drops like a hot rock.
Seriously. I was like, man, just a day earlier. Let me tell you something. If that trailer does not have you hyped up to a level 10 out of 9, an 11 out of 10, whatever you want to, I don't know, whatever your scale is, go one above that. That thing, man, woo, that looked good.
Awesome. What I loved about it is that you see scenes with he and Tony where he's kind of mentoring him and saying, no, you got to do this, you got to do that, don't do this, don't do that. Spoiler alert, he does, threaten to take away the suit. And then on the other side, you see him interacting with Michael Keaton, who is, of course, the villain in this movie. So, you just wonder how that's playing and how he's being tugged in different directions. And I thought it was really a great trailer. It was the perfect amount of information, but not, still
right.
You,
so you
wanting more.
You kind of hit on this thing that I really kind of caught on to, was that Tony Stark builds the suit for him in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He gets it in Civil War, right? And then they show the scene where he's like, I told you not to do this. He's like, give me the suit. And he says, without the suit, I'm nothing. He's like, if you're nothing without the suit, you don't deserve it. And then you see some shots later in the trailer of Peter Parker as Spider-Man dressed up in like what looks like kind of like a ripped up hoodie and some like welder's goggles and, just like whatever he had lying around the house. So I get the impression that we're going to see him go from being kind of full on Spider-Man mode to less Spider-Man mode. And that's interesting because it's almost kind of like a reverse origin story. We're not going to get an origin story, but we're going to see what Spider-Man looks like stripped down out of the suit and still trying to protect those that he cares about. And yeah, I think you're also right. That thing with, Tony kind of says something along the lines in that trailer of, don't worry about the big, flying monster man. There's people that take care of this. And obviously, if Spider-Man's getting into it, maybe it's not being taken care of. Maybe there's bigger fish to fry for the Avengers, and he feels like this is his home turf, his backyard. It's New York City. So he's got to do it. He's the only one that can do it.
Yeah, I thought that the action looks awesome. The story, I love when a trailer can tell a little bit of the story. Like I said, leave a little bit to be desired. I think from the trailer, like you said, if it's anything like the trailer, then I think it's going to be a great movie.
It seemed like comedy, drama, action. Can we get to July already, man? Telling you.
So I have one. It's a short one, but oftentimes in Rebel Intelligence, unfortunately, we have to kind of talk about death. It's a reality, and this time it is not of a star. It is it could be, but this is the story of the real life Sharknado that hit Australia. There was a 10-foot bull shark that was found in a puddle in, I'm going to say this wrong, Ayr, Queensland. There was a cyclone that happened, Cyclone Debbie, and this poor shark, it was shown on Twitter and some other things, had landed kind of in this swampy area. And real life Sharknado, it can actually happen.
That was a interesting documentary on Sharknadoes that came out a few years ago, I must say. And, have
you actually seen the movie?
No, I haven't. Have you?
Oh, no, but I talked to somebody who had. I was talking to one of my Boy Scouts that I work with. We were headed to camp, and I'm like, "What? Have you actually seen?" He's like, "Yeah, it was horrible." I'm like, I kind of want to see it because it's so bad. I can only imagine it's so bad. And he gave me the full rundown. I got like the IMDb, review, and it sounds horrible. So I probably will not waste.
Yeah, me neither, to be honest. But the idea, though, that something like that actually could happen in real life and now has been proven, that's a little frightening.
Frightens the crap out of me.
I look at movies set in Australia and it looks so beautiful, and then I think of kangaroos that can beat you up and spiders that are as big as a car and these rampaging koala bears and Sharknadoes, and I go,
crazy Aborigines.
Why in the world would you want to go to a place that's like destined to kill you if you go out your front door? Anyway.
I mean, Mordor is there. I mean, who knows what? Good golly.
Mordor's next door in New Zealand.
Oh, so sorry, Mr. Jacques Cousteau.
I love how I'm so like, actually, Mordor is next door in New Zealand.
Actually, a totally fictional place is in the neighboring island of Tasmania, sorry.
Well, I got this thing that I saw that was interesting. I thought I'd ask you if you saw this. There's a blind video game player that actually won his first round at a Street Fighter V tournament, and I saw that and I went, that's really interesting. So I read a little bit of this article.
And he's blind?
He's blind. So
wow,
how does he play a video game, right? And apparently, fighting video games like Street Fighter V and some of the Mortal Kombats and things of that nature are actually really, there's a lot of sounds associated with it. So when they do, you remember the Liu Kang kick for Mortal Kombat,
Haru kick.
Right. They'd make these sounds. And so this
Yeah.
player has gotten used to what these sounds sound like, and he was on. They show a little video of it, and he was playing and basing on sounds, and then would hit his combos, and he won like a best 2 out of 3 in the first round of this tournament. And I thought that was kind of interesting because it's inspiring, right? I mean, video games are very much a visual medium, hand-eye coordination and all. But this man did it with ear-hand coordination.
Well, you think like the placement of the other player in those, kind of side-scroller video fighting games that it'd be hard to, land the punch, land the kick. You could do your special moves, I assume, and get them that way. But that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really kind of a cool thing. So
kind of reminds me like Luke is, kind of like, no, put the visor down.
Right. I can do this drone exercise.
Exactly, put the blaster down. So I have one. I think we talked many podcasts ago about my love for Tesla and that I will someday own a Tesla.
Right.
And there's a new space race. It is not with the Russians. It's actually between Amazon, Jeff Bezos, and Elon Musk from Tesla. And shortly after, I think Elon Musk kind of announced, I think a month ago or so, that they were going to be doing kind of private citizen space flights and around the moon.
Right.
Amazon, like right after, fired back and announced the Blue Origin, which is the name of their pod, to be sent up very, very soon thereafter. And so there's kind of like this new space flight, which I assume is kind of like the equivalent of like kind of chest thumping, measuring certain things, between these two kind of entrepreneurial gurus and kind of always want to be who's going to be the on the cutting edge of pushing the envelope. So what do you, any thoughts?
Well, I think it's interesting that I think the Elon Musk had a SpaceX flight that was going to go like this last week, right? They had a rocket. They were like a rocket they'd used once before. They were going to reuse because they're trying to prove that. And I think like right before that was going to go up, that's when Jeff Bezos of Amazon released like their details of like what do you call it? The Blue Ocean?
The Blue Origin.
The Blue Origin, what their pod looked like. And they released it like the day before. So it's kind of like oh, you're going to do this, but hey, we're going to trump you and show you our stuff and how it looks. I'm tell you what, I know that in my lifetime, I'm probably not going to be able to afford private space travel. But I love that idea that that's where we're going. I love space.
Yeah.
I love travel. We watched we watched the movie Hidden Figures, kind of about the black women that were involved in, highly involved in NASA back in the 60s. We watched that the other night, and I just loved it because I love seeing the whole space program and trying to get, men into orbit onto the moon and such. And it was a really good movie, by the way. But this idea, though, that we're getting to a point in our civilization where that's like a real thing that companies are going to start doing. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, now correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the listeners should know that you're a bit of a kind of a source on the subject, being that you went to space camp.
That's true. I did go to space camp in 5th grade.
Spencer bested the gyroscope without hurling chunks.
Right. It was one of those things where I remember coming into 5th grade, Mrs. Johnson at West Elementary, and she gave us presentation about how there was this week-long space camp and you could go to it. And if you went to it, you weren't going to have to make up any schoolwork. And I don't know how I convinced my mom and dad to send me from Illinois to Florida for a week in the middle of school so I could attend space camp, but they did it. And I loved it as a kid. And I came away from there wanting to be an astronaut more than anything in the world. And that's actually like an inner hidden childhood desire of mine that I still kind of hold. But at the time when it was, getting to the age when you should be like, well, I should probably get into the Navy and become a pilot so I can one day become an astronaut, I realized I couldn't fly because of my eyesight, because I had to wear contacts. So I kind of gave up on it. But now I can choose Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, whoever's going to get me there. I'm good.
That is awesome. You know what you should do, Spence, is if you were so quick to find that picture of me on top a limo, you could probably find a picture of you in space at space camp. What do you think for our listeners at home?
I think I got a photo that would work.
Oh, I'm sure you do. It's up on your refrigerator right now.
Refrigerator, man, that thing's framed and next to my bedstand at night.
Exactly. It's on my ceiling right next to the mirror. No, so it's yeah. So anyway, so that's just a little thing, but I think it's. I agree with you. It's amazing that this is now very within reach.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, tycoons and rich people are going to be obviously the first early adopters, but this is not far away.
Pretty soon you'll be like, hey, I just need an Uber to the moon. I'm going to use my app and make sure that happens.
Exactly. I got to go pick up some cheese. I got some indigestion.
Operation Big
cheese,
Block
right?
of Moon Cheese. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
All right. So I know, Steve, that you're not like a Game of Thrones guy, but for those of the listeners that are, the trailer for the 7th season of Game of Thrones just released this last week. And it's not, they don't give away a lot, but what they do show is they show Jon Stark, whoops, Jon Snow, because I guess technically he was legitimized by his brother Robb Stark, but he never knew about that. Sorry, uber nerd, what can I say? They show Jon Snow, the bastard child of Eddard Stark. They show him in Winterfell looking at kind of like the high table of Winterfell there where his father would sit. They show Daenerys Targaryen finally getting onto Westeros and taking her ancestral seat on Dragonstone. And then, of course, they show the Queen, Cersei Lannister, sitting on the Iron Throne. And that's pretty much all it is, but it kind of shows them walking in slow-mo and playing music. But basically, it's just kind of setting up this idea that, hey, the 3 big main characters that are going to be vying for control and power, Jon Snow and taking back over the North, Cersei at King's Landing, and now Daenerys Targaryen getting her ancestral home of Dragonstone and the seat of Dragonstone back. It's kind of setting us up because the show obviously is ahead of now the books, and we're going to have to start coming to a resolution because we've got this season, which is a shortened season, and then we have next season, which is a shortened season. I believe 8 episodes in each season, and then that's it. So it's happening, and they're giving you that inclination right from the trailer that this is happening. So
that's cool. That's cool. Well, it's obviously a very, very popular series, and I have not jumped on the bandwagon, but that is exciting for those that have.
Yeah. Big news if you're a fan.
Speaking of trailers, I know that you are probably not the biggest fan of things that are of the horror or terror genre.
No, not at all. I like not crapping my pants when I watch TV.
That's why you eat cheese while you watch the horror movies.
Right.
So the trailer for It just dropped. So they have remade the I guess it was probably a 1980 something miniseries starring Tim Curry back in the day. So Stephen King's It
Right.
Just came out with a new trailer. I have watched it. It is terrifying. The story, obviously, Pennywise is the clown monster, whatnot, dwells in the sewers, takes place in a small town. These boys, kind of a little ragtag group of boys, kind of find out about all these disappearing children and disappearing adults. And anyway, if you like horror, or if you just, want to, not have a restful sleep.
If you like clowns.
Or if you like clowns, right, exactly. Which is nobody. Nobody likes clowns. Not even clowns like clowns. Take a look at the trailer. It's.
Okay, because I knew you were going to bring this up. In all honesty, I did watch the trailer against my better judgment because I do hate horror stuff and I hate freaky stuff. And I mean, if I have nightmares about it afterwards, maybe I know myself. I just want to avoid it. But
right.
In fairness, I did watch it. And
for the listeners.
Yeah. I sacrificed my sleep for you people. But let me tell you though, it does look freaky. I also kind of got a little bit of a Stranger Things vibe with the children. I don't know if
Yeah.
maybe that, cause it just kind of seemed like these kids, because as I recall, you made me watch the It mini series when we were like in high school. We went down to the library and rented it, I remember. And you made me watch that, and that crap freaked me out. But here's the thing why I think that one was so freaky is that Tim Curry was in clown makeup, but he looked like he could just be like a normal clown. Like, but then of course he gets creepy and it's all the weird stuff, and like it kind of had that John Wayne Gacy feel to it, right?
Exactly.
Which is absolutely terrifying for so many different other reasons. And this one is like he just looks like some sort of like horror clown, and I don't know. I mean, I think it's gonna be scary, but in a different way, if that makes sense.
No, yeah. And ever since it seems like like The Ring and what was the other one with Jennifer? It was about the house. It was taken from the Japanese horror movie. Anyway,
You're asking the completely wrong person.
Yeah. Somebody from our listeners can remind me what The Grudge. Ever since those movies, like they have made children like freaking terrifying. Like sometimes I come into my room, my daughter will come out and her hair is all in her. She wakes up and I'm like, ah! Oh, it's just you, sweetheart. Okay. But in this one, one of the, not a spoiler alert, but if you watch the trailer, you'll see one of the kids gets taken down the sewer, right? And later, one of the other kids sees him and, oh, good golly.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
Yeah, let's
be freaky.
Let's move on. You're scaring me just talking about it. So here's something let's end on this one, I guess, for Rebel Intelligence.
Sure. Sure.
The Avengers, big movie, right? Avengers: Age of Ultron's a big movie. Those movies were entrusted to Joss Whedon, and I have a lot of respect for Joss Whedon. I mean, big for the Buffy the Vampire Slayer stuff, the Serenity, Firefly.
I was going to say, yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of his. I loved The Avengers and Age of Ultron, the second one. Now, news looks like he's going to write and direct a standalone Batgirl movie. And now,
really?
Yeah, that's interesting because he's going to be jumping over from doing stuff in the Marvel Universe to DC. Now, we've made no bones about the DC Universe, as far as movies, have struggled. They've had their bumps lately.
Yeah.
I'm still cautiously optimistic about Justice League, like we talked about last week.
Right.
But Joss Whedon directing a standalone Batgirl movie, I mean, I have a lot of faith in Joss Whedon. He hasn't done a lot that I haven't liked or that I thought has been done poorly.
Agreed.
My question is, why Batgirl? Like, what about Batgirl is a compelling enough character to, like, if he's going to jump over and do something in DC, he's going to do that. Like, why wouldn't he take on something that's, like, I mean, bigger, you know, like a bigger property, like a Batman or a Superman or, you know, something.
That's a really good point. I've loved everything that he's done. I mean, you know, I loved the Firefly series, Serenity.
Yeah.
Thought he did a great job with that, and
Firefly the series, and then Serenity the movie.
Yep.
Listen, man, I'm a brown coat, okay? Don't mess with me. I don't know. Battle of Serenity Valley, man. Battle of Serenity Valley.
We should talk at some point about different levels of nerdism or whatever, you know, like Peter on the last podcast was saying, you know, like I'm kind of like a mid-level. No. When you guys started talking in the end about all the connections with the Infinity Stone, no, that took it to another level. So anyway, your brown coat comment just drove home the point.
I'm just saying.
Anyway, so I'd be interested to find out. I'd love to see a trailer because the trailer is really kind of the first blush for me, right? If I look at the trailer and if I don't like the trailer, am I gonna like the movie? Probably not. I don't know. Probably not.
But I think you're right though. A trailer's granted, they're just talking about him signing the deal to direct and to write it, so we're a ways off from a trailer. But I agree, right. A trailer's necessary. and it's going to have to come in strong. Like, it's going to have to hit every like high point that it can, make you feel something, make you laugh, make you excited for the action.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's going to be like, well, here's another Suicide Squad.
Good golly.
Anyway.
Well, that'll be good to see.
That's it, man. I'm out. You got anything else?
I'm done. Done.
All right. So last week, we had our movie club, and we were talking about Doctor Strange. And we asked you, the listeners, a question. We said, if you were living in, or if you were in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, what magical power would you like to have? And we got some responses. We're going to start over on Twitter. And the first response is Eric Gifford at EricBobG.
What's up, Eric?
And he says, to always be the guy that doesn't show up, like Hulk or Thor in Civil War. I want to be on the team, but not actually have to do anything.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's like, can I just...
That is my superpower for this podcast.
He's like,
just show up.
Can I just get a punch card that says I'm on the team to hand out to girls, but, not do anything? Darren generally at Grimorian219 says time manipulation. Definitely. I mean, I like that. Lane White at Lane Storm says, none. I'd like to be a character who connects all the others through my faith in Christ, changing situations with scriptures. Now,
nice.
I like that. However, you wouldn't also want to be able to fly, like to be able to like fly around to do that, to like, just minimize the amount of time wasted. That's all I'm
travel,
saying.
Yeah. You got to be like a fly coach, and you got to put the scriptures in the overhead bin. Just fly.
I mean, because, if you're trying to do it for everyone, I'm just saying flying could help.
Even Jesus flew at the end.
Right. So jumping over to Facebook, Josh Stapleton says,
a bum.
Yeah, we know that guy. He says, I think mine would be enhanced memory. I would hate to be sitting at a dinner in DeKalb, Illinois, at Eduardo's, say 3 days ago, and forget my kids' ages. Reference is purely hypothetical, but Steve, I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Okay, so maybe I forgot a few of my kids' ages, but at least
and
I
their
didn't
names.
forget their names. Right. One of them's name was Eduardo, I think.
So what's the deal there, Steve? You forgot your kid's age?
After a few non-alcoholic strawberry daiquiris, you forget a lot of things, okay? I'm just saying. Yes, I had temporarily forgotten one of my children's ages because we were talking about this, that, or the other, and yada, yada. So, but that's why you have mother-in-laws. That's right.
I heard this is the story.
I name them and let them raise themselves. That's called good parent right there.
I heard that your mom corrected you, and you were like, really? That's how old they are?
Oh. You know what? I still think she's wrong.
Even in the face of empirical evidence, I like that you're
right.
You're gonna
until
hold
I
your
see
ground.
a birth certificate. Produce a birth certificate, okay? Produce a birth certificate, Mr. Obama.
Long form. Yeah. Thank you so much for your answers to our question of the week. We tend to sometimes go serious and sometimes go silly, and we like that you guys roll with the punches and can go either way with us. That's awesome.
Thanks for the digital shot to the junk.
Ding! So every week, though, we're going to keep asking you questions. We're going to do that. We want you to respond to us, and you can always respond to us on Twitter, which is at Fort of Nerd, or you can reach us by email at the Fort of Nerd at Gmail, and Facebook, facebook.com/Fort of Nerd. Steve, we're always looking for new listeners. We've been growing the podcast. We got new people joining us and interacting. How can our current listeners help others find us?
You got to rate us on iTunes, guys. We'd love it if you did it. So the Fortress of Nerditude isn't as hard to find as a block of cheese during a stomach cramp.
It's not hard to find. I've got it.
I've got it. Come to Spencer's house. He's got it. You want Munster? You want Colby Jack? We got it all.
I got it all, man. Extra sharp.
Your house is like a cheese emporium. I always love that name, emporium. If I ever have a business, whatever it is, whatever we sell, it's going to be an emporium.
I like that. I'm down with that.
Yeah.
So, Steve.
Yeah.
Have you seen anything or heard anything of the movie Ghost in the Shell?
I have only seen the previews, of which I have to quickly turn off because it looks like, Scarlett Johansson is butt naked, and my kid's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Nothing. Just switch."
So I never watched the Ghost in the Shell animated manga back in the day, like in the 90s, but I know it's really I know it's really, really popular. But with currently with the Ghost in the Shell coming out this last weekend, and then with Justice League coming up with the character Cyborg in it, I thought it might be a good time to kind of talk about cyborgs in TVs and movies, because it seems like we're seeing a few more of them here recently and currently. So
yeah,
I wanted to ask you, if you were to build a team of cyborgs, who is going to be the 5 you would put on a team? Now, I think, though, we should clarify, like, by cyborgs, I don't mean like the Terminator, because even though the Terminator is classified as a cyborg assassin, it's a metal exoskeleton. It's all machine, just covered in a little bit of skin, right? So Cyborg is a human that's been enhanced by, in my mind, a human that's been enhanced by technology, whether that's mechanical, electrical, something along those lines. So under that framework, if you're picking like a top 5 for a basketball team of cyborgs, who are you going with?
Who's got hops? So let's see here. So I would probably start off with none other than Tony Stark.
Tony Stark?
He'd be my first pick. Oh yeah. You've got the little thing in the chest here. So he may not be everybody's first pick for cyborgs, but I mean he's definitely got some mechanisms in that body of his. Aside from the suit, he's
so you're talking about the mini arc reactor in his chest that's keeping him alive.
That is correct. Correct. Now, of course, if he was playing on the basketball team, he'd be a power forward, and I would want him in the suit.
Right.
But
ain't no one driving on me.
Exactly. So that'd be my first pick.
That's really interesting. Sorry, Steve. I'm sorry to interrupt you. That's just really interesting because I would never have thought of Tony Stark like that, because I would think, I'm thinking like more, but you're right though, because he's got that arc reactor that basically keeps him alive. It's not a heart, but it's
the glowy thing. Yeah.
The big glowy thing in his chest. It's almost like we talked so much about that in the first Iron Man movie, but then like we've never really talked much about it since. I mean, a little bit, I guess, in the second one. It came to me
as an epiphany. Yeah, it came to me as an epiphany. I'm like, wait, yeah.
Okay.
Power forward.
Nice. I like that. Tony Stark.
Yeah. My second would be Jodie LaForge from Star Trek, because he's black and they're always good basketball. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. That was just a joke.
So you got to get a token cyborg in there.
Well, no. So and he's another one that I actually wouldn't normally think about. You'd think of like Data, but of course he was a robot.
Yeah, he's an android.
But Jodie LaForge, he did, by all technical terms, he was a bionic human being, that he had enhanced abilities, that were not normal. He had visual instruments, the sensory organ replacement visor, with prosthetic eye implants, and I will just say that it was socially groundbreaking as well, because he was one of the first multi-ethnic cast members on primetime television. So it was just kind of an imagined future where humanity moves past racism.
I really liked Next Generation, but for some reason there was always, I don't know, like excitement is the right word, but every time like Geordie LaForge would take his visor off to like have tests run or whatever, like I was always like excited. I'm like, oh yeah, let's see what's behind the visor. I don't know why.
Well,
but
I think it's like the same thing. It's like the same thing when a woman wears boots or something. It's like you cover something up and you're like, oh, what's behind it? What's behind you? Like, it's just a leg. If she was wearing high heels, it'd be the same thing. But it's under a boot. Well, hot dang.
Wow.
Maybe it's
that's
nothing like
It's just interesting. You're like, it's like a boot, I tell you.
I like those knee-high boots. That's all I'm saying.
I got this great analogy that involves a boot.
But no, it was actually kind of funny that LeVar Burton was portrayed in a media rarity as an African American character that was a gifted scientist and an intellectual. So,
yeah,
it was kind of a first. So he'd be my second pick.
Okay.
My third pick, and I think you're going to agree with me on this one, RoboCop.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right. Anybody who can have a thigh implanted 9mm at the touch of a button, come on, man.
Well, maybe Alex Murphy, aka RoboCop, was like maybe one of my first introductions to cyborgs. In
James Murphy.
It's Alex Murphy.
It's James Murphy.
It's Alex Murphy, man. Look it up. Wikipedia.
It's
that
James
crap.
Murphy. I'm looking at it right now.
It's Alex Murphy.
We'll agree to disagree.
No. I'm going to go to IMDb right now. I'm telling you, it's Alex Murphy. Anyway.
All right. Let's go right now.
Nope, I'm done. Okay. This interlude of the Fortress of Nerdity podcast is brought to you by IMDb, the Internet Movie Database, where we discuss Alex Murphy, a.k.a. RoboCop. And IMDb says... Boop, boop, boop. I don't know. I gotta look up RoboCop. I can't work a computer.
I can't work it while on...
IMDb says... I know this is like totally like exciting for everyone out there. Peter Weller played Officer Alex J. Murphy / RoboCop.
Oh, do you know what the J stands for? It stands for James, fool. James Murphy. We're both right. Woo, baby. Anyway, so yeah, that the 1987.
Just so dumb. We gotta prove who's right. Anyway,
exactly. That's what our friendship's built on. That's how we became friends to begin with. When I gave you the bloody nose.
Yep.
So yeah. The original RoboCop, over the top, ultra violent satire. Loved it. Fantastic. Yeah.
It was quotable
great deadpan
too.
One-liners.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
Ooh, that's good. That's good.
I love that.
My fourth pick. I got 1, 2, 3. My fourth pick is going to be none other than Inspector Gadget. Oh yeah.
Ooh, I was going to bring up Inspector
Helicopter
Gadget
hat?
too. Right?
Were you really?
Yes.
Man.
I mean,
you got the
we said TV and
the
movies,
Boingo
right?
Boots. Yeah.
Dude, Inspector Gadget,
Gadget.
yes.
Next time, Dr. Claw.
I used to love that
tomorrow.
Inspector Gadget. Yes,
you sound like a backup singer for Prince or something.
Diamonds and pearls. Okay,
that's awesome.
So that's your fourth one?
And my last and final, the right-hand wonder, none other than Luke Skywalker.
Ooh.
Cyborg hand, what's up?
Yep, he does have cyborg hand all the way. Okay,
yeah.
I like your list.
Great 3-point shot.
I like he's your 3-point specialist. He's got that perfect flick of
kind
the
of direct
wrist
where
motion.
the ball goes.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna go. See, I was thinking along the same lines. I'm with you on RoboCop. RoboCop is definitely one of my 5 because he really was a great a great blending of the human side with the robot side, right? And he's like, it still has like kind of these hints of like his human memories locked away, sort of. And I always really kind of thought that was cool. So I'm with you on the RoboCop. And I
love that. Before you move on, I love the tagline for this movie was part man, part machine, all cop.
Yes.
Which I just thought was awesome. I'm like, that is totally 80s.
That when he shoots the guy in the crotch, like he shoots like between the lady's legs and hits the guy in the crotch. I don't know why, but as a kid in the 80s, I'm like, that's the best. I don't know.
Oh, that's why America's Funniest Home Videos had 16 seasons.
Right. So I'm with you there. Inspector Gadget, I am with you on that. That was going to be one I was going to bring up because Inspector Gadget Man's like, he was like a Swiss Army knife in human form. Like whatever he
Right.
needed, he was like, oh, I got to have the, big long projectile, shoes that, bounce me up, and I've got to, extend my arms and whatever.
Yep.
I'm with you. So those two I'm in agreement with. Now, here's where I'm going to differ a little bit. 7 of 9. So you went Star Trek with Next Generation. I'm going to go Star Trek, but Voyager. The reason I picked 7 of 9, because obviously she's a Borg, and the Borg are exactly that. They're, humans and other alien races as well that are absorbed into the Borg collective, and they're outfitted with machines and technology, and they're true cyborgs. Hence, even the name the Borg is just an abbreviation of cyborg. But with 7 of 9, she kind of becomes stranded from the others, and then she ends up like later in the series becoming kind of like a huge ongoing role, and there's this kind of whole thing where she's like trying to rediscover her humanity, which is different than like kind of the story they told in Next Generation with Data, who was a complete android who wanted to be human and was trying to learn about humanity because, the whole Pinocchio thing, he wants to be a real boy, right?
Exactly.
But 7 of 9 in Voyager was trying to reconnect with her humanity in a way. And so I really like her. So that's going to be the first one I'm going to differ with you on.
Okay.
There were so many of them, Steve, that I really wanted to get to. Like I thought about, but I had to narrow it down. And the next one, Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2. Now, or any of the Spider-Mans, but Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2. Because
nice.
He was all man, and then he put on the big, mechanical arms to like help him control that big experiment he had. And then of course the little chip like burnt out and went wrong, and so like it fused into him, and then he was in control half of the time, and the mechanical arms were in control half of the time. Alfred Molina played Doc Ock in that movie, and he was fantastic. The arms.
That is a great choice. That is
yeah.
a great choice. And I like it as well because that, just like he and RoboCop, that the cyborgness had to happen because of, some kind of event, right? It wasn't just that they were created like like the Borg or things like that, but that there was some event that had to happen where they, by necessity or by, I guess not by choice with Doc Ock, but still,
right.
Often tragedy.
Yeah. It's different than some like Inspector Gadget. Like I don't remember like if Inspector Gadget ever had like something happen to him or like he just volunteered to be worked on. But
we'll check out the origin story later.
Right. But like obviously with like 7 of 9, like the Borg's whole thing is, resistance is futile. You will be assimilated, and they assimilate entire cultures and people. So like, that happened to her. With Doc Ock, like, he was trying to use the mechanisms of his arms to control something, and it went wrong, and through pain and, a horrible tragedy, he becomes this great villain in Spider-Man's universe, but he's now a complete cyborg because he can't live one without the other at this point anymore.
And he has to kind of fight against it as well, which I thought was kind of cool.
Right. Yeah, that inner kind of turmoil, right? Okay, so those are my 2 that gets me up to 4. And then I'm going to go to my last one. And this is where I'm going to do a digital mic drop, because I think this one, if you're having a conversation about any cyborg, how is this one not the top of the list? Darth Vader. Yep, Darth Vader. Because this is Anakin Skywalker. He gets brutally mutilated at the end of Revenge of the Sith. And his arms, his legs, the suit helps him breathe, sustains his life. He can't be separated from the suit, and the suit can't be without him. It's truly a symbiotic relationship. Plus, Darth Vader is, in my mind, the greatest villain of all time in movies. I'm okay with people disagreeing with me. I'm going to think you're wrong, and I'm going to stick to my guns.
I don't think anybody could disagree with that.
But he, he's connected. And there's even this like little scene. Do you remember in Empire when there's Vader's kind of like in that pod that kind of like opens up a little bit and it kind of cracks open and you see him like with his helmet off?
Yeah.
Like he's trying to like breathe on in that scene. He's like trying to breathe on his own. Like Vader's trying to see like how far he can push his humanity. Is like trying to live on his own without the mechanism of the suit. And he can't. And so he has to rely on it. So the mask goes back on and whatnot. Plus the whole thing in Return of the Jedi where you have this great juxtaposition where Vader and Luke just have this huge epic battle, and Luke is trying to redeem Vader against the Emperor, and the Emperor is trying to use Vader to turn Luke. And at the very end, as Vader's dying, he has this, moment where he's like, "Let me see you with my own eyes," right? And so they take the helmet off, and you can tell his breathing immediately becomes labored, and he's really struggling. I mean, of course, he's in the process of dying, but it's this great moment where like you see the man underneath the mask. I know a lot of people, it's controversial. People were like, "Don't show it," it's not necessary, but I liked it because it really did show kind of the duality of, him, the man, versus him, the machine, right? So if I'm picking a basketball team, those are my 5.
I thought about Darth Vader a lot. I knew you'd probably pick him.
Yep.
But obviously, who won in the end? Luke. Luke won.
Did he?
Luke defeated Darth. So.
Did he?
Did he? Yeah. Yeah, he did actually.
I mean,
I'll rewatch it, but yeah, he did.
Vader was the one that destroyed the Emperor and brought balance back to the Force. I'm just saying.
Bad choice. But no, that is a great. I mean, just from as a higher level kind of review, that is a great scene and a great, where he basically forgoes the mechanical bionic portion to really kind of as kind of a deathbed, grasp at humanity. I think that is a cool thing, and also cool that Luke, in turn, has some non-human, portion of his body that he can relate or
which is not an outpouring, a result of his earlier battle in Empire with Darth Vader. He loses his hand because of Darth Vader, which I always kind of looked at this, and maybe I'm reading into it, but like when he loses his hand, it was like almost like Vader kind of like looks at him for a moment, like now he's going to become more like me. Like there was this kind of like, this isn't what I wanted for my son. I don't know. But the similarities, the parallels between the kind of the two at that moment is really well done.
I agree. Well, we'll have to put our two teams together in battle on the hardwood and see who comes up victorious.
So let's think about this here. I think it's just going to be a melee. I think they're going to throw the ball up and it's going to get tipped to one side. And next thing you know, Vader's going to break loose. Vader and Luke are going to be, having daddy and son issues, and lightsaber's going to be out, and Tony Stark's going to be blasting people with his repulsors, and Inspector Gadget's going to be trying to fix everything, and
Jody LaForge is going to be cowering behind the stands.
RoboCop's just going to be indiscriminately shooting everyone because they've all broken the law.
Crotch shot. One honorable mention that I wanted to bring in, but obviously once we got into the Webster's Dictionary of a bionic human, a person whose body contains mechanical or electrical, devices and whose abilities are greater than, you kind of, this is outside of that definition. But one person that I would also want on my team as an honorable mention is none other than Vicky from Small Wonder. What up? Mic drop.
Straight up Android, huh? Yeah.
Who wouldn't want
Vicky from Small Wonder? I love that reference. Have I told you how much I love that reference?
Right. Who wouldn't want an 8-year-old in a maid costume on the basketball court? She could take the rock to the hole.
I'll take Teddy Ruxpin on my team. Okay, so if Vicky from Small Wonder is your honorable mention. Let me think of who, like the sixth.
Oh, you're gonna go Terminator.
No. The sixth man on, on the roster.
Tony Kukoc, of course.
Tony Kukoc, half man, half basketball player, all cyborg.
All Ukrainian. No, I don't know where he's from.
Croatian, I believe.
Same difference.
Josh will correct me.
I'm sure he will.
Gosh, I'm trying to think like who would be my sixth man, and I'm gonna go back in time a little bit. Frankenstein. I'm gonna choose Frankenstein because that man was put back together with technology and mechanical stuff. Like he had those bolts in his neck in order for like the electricity to like, I don't know, keep working.
Okay.
So he's not going to be an offensive threat by any stretch of the imagination, but he is going to box out like nobody's business.
Didn't he play in the NBA? I think his name was Luke Longley.
Right.
Couldn't jump over a Sunday paper, man, please.
So Vicky is going to be dominated by Frankenstein. She'll run circles around him, but she ain't going to make a shot. He's a blocking machine.
We're talking about hard pounding issues on this podcast.
Yes,
let me tell
absolutely. So yeah, just kind of like looking at that. Like I love movies with cyborgs in them, and I think a lot of people do, right? I mean, they seem to be really popular. Like that's a common theme. Like someone gets injured, let's implant them with some biochemical servo to make them do something.
Yeah. I mean, Wolverine. I mean, who knows? I think, I think being able to accelerate and accentuate human ability is probably just an innate desire of all of us. I mean, my grandmother got a titanium hip. I mean, she'd be a good six man.
My grandpa has a pacemaker, so he's the best cyborg.
That's right. We'll all be cyborgs one day. You're going to be Crane and a brain in a little tube in the belly of some robot.
Cool. You know what?
Eating cheese.
Gosh, I almost want another honorable mention because I thought of another great. Okay, so here's the deal. We can't go down this road because this podcast would go on all night long because I can think of, the longer I sit here, I'm going to think of more and more and more. So let's do this. Let's ask our question of the week this week to our listeners. What is their favorite cyborg?
And why?
And why, of course. Sure, always and why. But what is your favorite cyborg from movies and TV and why? Let us know. Let us know on Twitter, Fort of Nerd at Fort of Nerd. Gmail, if you want to go the long form answer, which Peter Christensen and Bryce Jolly like to do. And that's going to be fortofnerd@gmail.com. Or facebook.com/fortofnerd.
That works too.
Let's just make it happen. So let us know your answer.
Yeah, we want to hear. And how well they would play in a basketball tournament.
Right.
That would be important as well.
Because that's really what we're about, right? I mean, March Madness is just kind of, winding down to a close by the time this is going to come out. And so we want to know who is your March Madness cyborg team.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, it's as always, awesome to be with you guys. Love it. Keep coming back. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell strangers, karate instructors, flight attendants, milkmen, anybody that'll listen. Join us. We want to grow the population. We want to grow the attendees at the Fort of Nerd on a weekly basis. So
come to me, jungle nerds.
Oh, that's pathetic. We would just go right to that. That was not scripted, folks. All right. Well, with that, we will bid you adieu. Until we meet again, parting is such sweet sorrow. May the force be with you. Always. In my underwear.
Wow. That's awesome.
Cut that out.
Hey, no.
I only do that for your enjoyment.
I'm leaving that in there too. I only do that for your enjoyment.
This is like the Highlander thing. I just keep coming out of my underwear.